So I'm Brandon Dean from Avio Consulting. Be working with my colleague Karthik Dega, some of our principal solution engineers at Avio, to walk through some of the trends that we're seeing in manufacturing and how MuleSoft is, how we're applying MuleSoft to solve some of those challenges. We'll go over an agenda here just real quick, what we're going to cover. I'm going to do a very brief about Avio, so let people know who we are and how we do it and why I think we're a little bit different. Karthik's then going to go through some of the industry trends in manufacturing that we're seeing, specifically around how MuleSoft is being applied to those industry trends and the improvements that organizations are able to make. I'm then going to give a brief introduction to the Anypoint platform, and then give an example of one of our clients that is basically addressing all of those trends and all of the challenges we're going to talk about with MuleSoft, and really being evolutionary in how they're applying technology to their challenges. And then we'll end with some strategic recommendations that we've come up with, and then we'll make sure we save some time at the end for Q&A. So as Lily said, throw your questions into the chat so you don't forget them, or hold on to them, and we'll do a Q&A at the end as well. So before we get into the heart of the webinar, though, let me briefly introduce Avio Consulting to you all. So Avio Consulting has been around since 2007. We've been around quite a while. We haven't focused on MuleSoft the entire time. We initially started out focusing on a business process management product. And that becomes important here in a little bit as we start talking through kind of the API layers that MuleSoft has. But we basically focused on helping organizations change their business processes and become more efficient through the application of technology. And we did that initially through an Oracle product that got acquired into Oracle, I should say. But then along the way in about 2015, we started looking at new products to focus on. We found MuleSoft through a bunch of due diligence that we did. And it aligned really well, one, because MuleSoft was in 3 different Magic Quadrants from Gartner, which was very impressive. But 2, the engineering team was out of Buenos Aires, which is where the business process management company that we were a part of came out of as well. And there's a lot of overlap between those teams. A lot of the engineering team had moved over to MuleSoft. So it just made a lot of sense that MuleSoft became our next line of business that we were going to start. So that happened in 2015. But really the important part about how we go to or how we help our clients isn't that we're one of the world's best at implementing MuleSoft. We are, but it's the ability for us to explain why something should be done. And really consult with our clients. That's really the important part, because there's a lot of things that need to happen in order to be really successful in an evolutionary type of initiative. And we use evolutionary versus transformative. For us, transformation is a beginning and an end. If you think of a tadpole transforms into a frog, and we really see this as more evolutionary, with things happening constantly and constantly improving. But we see the need to have agile methodologies and automated testing, CI/CD principles, enterprise security. All of these things go into really having a modern approach towards application development. And that's really where we help our clients leverage MuleSoft in combination with those capabilities to really drive evolutionary type changes, as you'll see at the end of our presentation. Our vision is not to be the largest MuleSoft SI or to be the fastest growing. We really just want to be the most respected, the most influential. And that's been recognized along the way, as I think Karthik went to the next slide, and it has been recognized that MuleSoft has recognized us as a partner of the year 2 different times. Karthik, if you want to go to the next slide. We were 2018 Partner of the Year for our managed services offering, and then last year we were the Emerging Partner of the Year. We've since moved up and are fortunate to be working with Lily quite a bit as a MuleSoft Premier Partner. And along the way, when Salesforce acquired MuleSoft, they asked who are some of the partners that we should look at in terms of helping to accelerate growth. So last year, in March, right before the world shut down, we became a portfolio company of Salesforce Ventures and have really enjoyed the partnership with them on that. And we're executing on our desire to be that most respected and influential MuleSoft partner, and we're really seeing some great results overall in the market. So we've been doing this a long time, as I mentioned. We've done more than 250 individual projects. Even last year with COVID, we were fortunate to have about 50% growth in our MuleSoft practice. One of the unique things about us as well is that 100% of our delivery team is MuleSoft certified, and with the majority of our team holding multiple certifications. So most folks have, of course, the MuleSoft certified developer certification, but a majority of them have either platform architect or integration architect as well. As a company, we've got people throughout the Americas. We're headquartered here in Dallas, Texas, but we also have folks in a number of different cities. And then we have a sizable team throughout Latin America and South America with Brazil, Colombia, a good sized office in Buenos Aires, and then and in Mexico as well. We are also a MuleSoft preferred partner. They have a preferred delivery program, and we're fortunate this year to be part of that program as well. So we have a unique spot in the market, and where we feel like all of our members are A+ type members. We like to say we're the Navy SEALs and not the Navy. But it's that high level of competency that really sets us apart and makes us different and makes us usually 4 to 5 times more productive, we think, in terms of just overall project delivery. So that's a little bit about who we are and what we do, and why I think we're a little bit unique in the MuleSoft ecosystem and our delivery capabilities. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Karthik, and you can discuss the industry trends that we've been seeing in manufacturing.
Thanks, Brandon. Hello, thanks for joining. Allow me to reintroduce myself. I'm Karthik Dega. I'm the Principal Solutions Engineer at Avio. So thanks for taking time and being with us. We try to put some content together that's valuable to all of you. Well, there are many factors influencing manufacturing trends. We try to limit to some key trends in the essence of time. So in today's world, analysis of each customer's digital data is key to enhance customer experience. Social media presence is lately a key factor for purchase decisions. There in itself lies a challenge and an opportunity. Competing products in the marketplaces from across the globe to the customer being the challenge, but ability to capture global customer base is the opportunity. With such increasing competition in today's global market, companies are increasingly being pressured to improve the performance of their productive systems in order to be more competitive, efficient, and to improve market share. And the current market imposes the price of the products, increasingly tight quality requirements, shorter delivery times, and not neglecting also the requirement to increasingly personalize products through the operational efficiency. Now, efficiency has a dependency on visibility. Better visibility into complex supply chains translates to fewer disruptions, increased customer satisfactions, and lower costs. Supply chain visibility, SVC, is the ability to track individual components, sub-assemblies, and then the final products as they travel from suppliers to manufacturers to consumers. With all these in place, you start to think and act smart as an organization. The foundation of smart manufacturing is an integrated platform that unites all of these domains required to engineer, manufacture, and deliver today's smart products. Smart manufacturing is a digitized development strategy that encompasses this entire process, from design, factory floor optimizations, to incorporating customer feedback into these new designs that we're working on. So now we'll be talking through each of these trends and how MuleSoft helped manufacturing organizations to overcome some of their challenges. We'll start off with the manufacturings, how they are grappling with the engaging with their customers. Right? So manufacturers are now opening up new digital channels as a means of further engaging with their digitally enabled customers. Customers now expect manufacturers to be channel agnostics across both online and offline channels. Even though most customers like me would rather make a purchase online, if I were to call them back as CSR customer representative, I expect those service agents to see my orders I just made online, and thus manufacturers are attempting to create a more connected customer experiences across all channels. The ultimate goal is to effectively meet customer needs, and the Steve Jobs quote here sums it up very well. So to talk about this customer journey, the difference between customer service and experience is that the customer service is just one piece of that puzzle, focused on human interactions and directly supporting customers. Customer experience is some of that entire journey with your business. While service is being reactive, customer experience is more proactive. MuleSoft help in this use case BMW to meet their customer expectations by aggregating customer information from across teams and applications to create single customer view. That means less waiting time and more value. In addition to this, sales team had access to real-time data and up-to-date insight into their accounts. So what this picture or diagram here represents is a generalized architecture to overcome similar challenge using API-led approach. MuleSoft's API-led approach unlock key data from critical system, whether it is legacy or latest or on-prem or cloud or any other flavor it might be. You might have some at this point, just by looking at the diagram, there might be some questions on why these API segregations, why can't one API do the job? So those are all very good and valid questions, but we might need some more time to help you understand the details, but I'll try to address it at a very high level. Compartmentalization of this functionality into meaningful APIs would only enhance and enrich the capabilities of IT by promoting the reusability. And API-led connectivity is that architectural approach that shifts the way IT operates and promotes decentralized access to data and its capabilities. So later, Brandon will be going through the details of these API, but for just now, system APIs are typically to interact with system of records, in this case, SAP, Salesforce, any on-premise systems in this use case. Process APIs are more like business process, like customer itself, and different flavors of customer, like customer identification and customer behaviors. And experience API layers are the APIs that are getting consumed by the end users or end systems, in this case, the mobile applications or web applications. You'll have more understanding of these as we look through more and more customer use cases in this webinar. One other use case with multi-channel is that Univar Solutions is a global chemical and ingredients distributor and provider of value-added services, which works with leading suppliers worldwide. They were grappling with shifting customer expectations. B2C experiences were influencing expectations in the B2B world to deliver seamless and consistent interactions. Its 30-year-old on-premise ERP wasn't built for internet scale and was disconnected from its host of cloud applications. This made it difficult for IT to quickly implement change and paralyze the business ability to respond to these changing industry trends. With MuleSoft, Univar Solutions now exposes APIs to cloud applications securely, reduces synchronization issues, and makes it data easily accessible to the development teams. By building a foundation of these reusable assets, Univar Solutions went from contract to live e-commerce site in just 8 weeks. If you look at the diagram, you can see that the system APIs were interacting with Oracle, JDA, SAP, JD Edwards, and then having these business processes in the middle layer, order tracking, purchases, status of these invoices, even though they were originally built, most of them were built for their sales, CRM use case, and service applications. But then later on, when it was time for their e-commerce, they were able to reuse most of these assets, and that's how they were able to turn it up in 8 weeks. Now talking about the next trend, right? So in today's world, planning and execution is more data-driven than ever. Advanced analytics and artificial intelligence give manufacturers the ability to draw new insights from large data sets. However, only few manufacturers are able to harness and comprehend it. Operational efficiency is that ability of an organization to reduce waste in time, effort, and materials as much as possible while still producing a high quality service or product. The increased number of applications and data sources in manufacturing's environment is leading to a growing proliferation of raw data. For example, forecasting, this is from our previous experience, right? So forecasting data was captured in ERPs, spreadsheets, forms, and data warehouses, making it difficult for executives to have accurate sales data. Typical challenges in a sales process would be, let's say, a small deviation to standard order process, any customizations to an order, which inherently leads to visualization challenges, which might lead to slower turnaround to the customer itself, which is not a very good experience for the customer. So we'll take a look at an use case that we have seen with Airbus. Airbus is the world's largest airline manufacturer. In Airbus, shop floor operators had previously relied on physical workstations to document. These workstations were often on the opposite ends of the shop floor, meaning they could not be in front of the issue when entering the information on the damaged part. The constant back and forth from workstation to shop floor, plus the fact that the production team did not have a real-time consistent view into their projects, caused significant delays in their manufacturing process. So now using Anypoint platform, Airbus team started working on non-conformity API. This API started pushing data to application that shop floor operators can access from their personal mobile devices to gain real-time visibility into parts and projects. Not just that, Airbus also unlocked data from cloud and on-premise systems, including SAP like S4HANA and Skywise, and again, big data platforms, bringing all that valuable data together to reduce time to market of new aircraft production. One other use case from our experience with the manufacturing customer of ours in their quote-to-cash process. So they are parts manufacturing firm that were having trouble with their quote-to-cash process, especially with the customizations and the data synchronization between ERP and CRM CPQ systems. Their existing process had too many hops and many manual interventions needed to correct the data and to even harmonize the data before reaching to the other system. So we started working on starting small by building parts API, just to address their immediate need to synchronize data from between those systems. Along with that, they were able to achieve their BI initiatives just because we were able to archive or store these transactions in real time into their data lake so that their users or business users were able to see those as well. And slowly, with that in place, quickly it became a reusable asset when 8x8 customer care was brought on board. And later on, they now have plans to expose the same data to external partners. So this is a classic example, like how we start small, but then quickly it becomes reusable assets as we go along in the process. So now looking at the different trend, Forrester states that on an average, 60 to 73% of all the data within an enterprise goes unused. Harnessing these data insights is critical to cost savings. As a result, manufacturers are investing in technologies that help them leverage data insights to improve efficiency and cost reductions within their supply chains. As the number of partners increases, as you look in the diagram, so does the complexity with the amount of information being exchanged. Modern supply chains have become complex, multi-layered, and interconnected distributed systems that enable companies and countries even to trade more effectively and efficiently. It is essentially a network of interlinked companies, such as suppliers and distributors, who interact with each other, primarily complementing or supplying key components of the value proposition within their products or services, enforcing need to build ecosystem. So what we mean by ecosystem, right? So ecosystem is that network of cross-industry players who work together to define, build, and execute market-creating customer and customer solutions. So they could be complementing each other as well. So as we go along with that, every additional partner or supplier introduces new potential failure point and additional uncertainty, which is why having an agile key supply chain is so important. And in that process, key demands from ITR to provide real-time visibility into transactions like orders and shipment details for customers, or to decrease partner onboarding time itself, and using that key data to make educated decisions. Now to take a look at the use case, right? So one of the US largest wholesale distributors of sliding windows and exterior products was looking to expand its product portfolio through acquisition growth strategy. To meet these business demands, the IT team built APIs that put valuable customer and order data into the hands of employees. The distributor had a number of sales channels to purchase its products, meaning branch personnel would need to rekey orders from various channels into a single system. This made it difficult to efficiently validate orders in a timely manner. Thus, the IT team built a number of APIs focused on customer, order, products, and POS data. This provided a consolidated view that validated orders coming from 3 different sources: quoting, e-commerce, and EDI. IT then leveraged the same APIs to develop a connected driver app that streamlines real-time information from trucks on the road. So drivers can now push real-time shipment status updates to their customer portals, while customers can easily see that real-time arrival updates. This has led to fewer customer support calls, reduced customer friction, and improved employee productivity in their distribution process. Smart manufacturing. So switching topics to smart manufacturing, the last trend in our key trends for manufacturing. Smart manufacturing combines the physical and digital world, providing manufacturing with new business opportunities. More manufacturers are now moving into the as-a-service model by enhancing the product portfolio to deliver value-added services. To Steve Jobs' quote, you can't just wait for someone to get back to you asking for a product. By that time, they would already have something new. So let's take an example like coffee vending machines, coffee machines with the sensors. They now let you know when they have to refill the coffee powder in it. And similar to that, John Deere is now making satellite connected guidance systems, which provides that operational functions that help both John Deere and its customers analyze field performance. These are just a few use cases, right? There are many. Even the elevators are now talking to each other to maintain the climate, maintain the temperature, and to effectively balance the loads. So in talking about more of these, once again, the onus is on IT team to deliver. IT is now challenged with manufacturing and integrating remote connections across hundreds of thousands of devices, which we now call it as Internet of Things, IoT. The challenge is further amplified as manufacturers may have thousands of products and each of them has their own solutions. Thus, a manufacturing must ensure its integration strategies is agile, flexible, and designed to support future growth, especially with initiatives like AI and ML, which needs a heap amount of data, which all typically are locked in these legacy systems. Similarly, with the tracking or predictive maintenance, all these data has to be fed to these latest technologies to make sure that information is effectively used. Now, taking a look at this particular use case, ABB is a Fortune 500 company manufacturing a complete portfolio of industrial technology products for its customers in utilities, transport, and infrastructure. So their IT team had challenges with both the volume and the types of demand coming from business. IT was expected to keep their core backend systems and infrastructure running, but also implement these new innovative IT initiatives like IoT, AR, VR, big data, and advanced data analytics. So they decided to leverage MuleSoft Anypoint platform to build an organization that would support API reuse and simplify access to data. So historically, to deliver an remote conditioning machine initiative, it was 56 manual steps that had heavy data dependency coming from multiple backend systems. So rolling RCM across millions of these devices would not be feasible due to complexity and the manual work necessary. So by leveraging this API-led connectivity, ABB has dramatically simplified that process. ABB streamlines the development process and cuts the time to market for new services. And this has enabled their business to deliver the projects like RCM 25% faster. And the IT team also found out that each API they built was reused across 3 or 4 different projects across their organization. Bottom line, the goal for IT would be to be self-serving. One effective and proven way to do that is to start working towards consumption and innovation of your assets, which is essentially where MuleSoft and Avio excels in providing that unique value proposition with APIs and API-led approach. Brandon, over to you.
All right, thanks, Karthik. So what I'd like to do now is go through a little bit and give you a high-level overview of the Anypoint platform and what it is and what it comprises of. Talk through a little bit of the challenges that we see being addressed with it. More specifically, some things that we've done, and tie it back into the industry trends that Karthik has shown. So, as you see it here, and this is again, it's very high level. There are a number of components to the Anypoint platform. It is a full platform. It's not an individual product per se, right? When we're talking about the MuleSoft platform, so it encompasses everything from being able to create microservices, in effect, API management with policies and throttling. We can do ETL batch loads. We can have pub sub aspects to it. So it encompasses a lot of different aspects that we've seen historically that have been individual components as part of an integration strategy. And as we were looking at what products to support going forward, that was one of the key aspects for us, was that the platform was so all-encompassing and allowed us to do so many different things, provide such a comprehensive approach to integration for our clients. So one of the great values of MuleSoft is that all of these components fit into the API lifecycle itself, right? So we can use all of these different components to help address challenges that we see. And one of the other aspects of MuleSoft and this API lifecycle is that both the design and development lifecycles are fully supported by various components of MuleSoft. So while requirements, kind of in that upper right and that light blue, requirements are gathered, APIs can be mocked. We can look at from how they can be leveraged, and we can test those out in effect through an API notebook. While all that's happening, the development team can actually start on the build, test, and deploy aspect of those. And it's a fully integrated process so that the feedback is received very quickly. And so we can create mock APIs based upon a design that we agree upon. The front end team or another team may start calling those mock APIs with that existing or with that defined structure while the development team builds them out. Once those APIs are really published and deployed, they can be managed, or they can be the analytics can be seen, right? So in that operate aspect of it, and that provides additional feedback as to how the APIs are being used, the volume of which those APIs are being used, and that really can feed back into the design aspect for iteration or version 2 of that API to further improve it, further refine it. And so it is again, just gets back to the evolutionary concept of this is not we create an API and we're done. Oftentimes we see our clients really iterate over those APIs, provide additional value, refactor them, really understand how people are utilizing them. And that really helps to feed back into creating an optimal API. So that's kind of a high level look at Mule. So now let's look at some of the IT challenges that we're really seeing being addressed with MuleSoft. So Karthik spoke on some of the big industry trends that we're seeing with our manufacturing clients. But I also want to point out 3 kind of specific challenges that IT is having and kind of the results that we're seeing IT having to deal with because of those trends, right? So one of them is around an inability to scale at speed. Historically, I've been in IT since the 90s. You know, we've seen a gap really between business and IT in terms of lengthy development cycles and being able to get the business side really what they need. And by the time IT delivers a project, the business needs have oftentimes changed, right? So that's a problem that MuleSoft has really tried to address, and they do a good job with it because they provide the ability to really be flexible and scale the platform, scale the APIs as needed. So you can reuse the existing APIs and enable organizations to really scale how they're doing things much, much better. One of the other challenges that we're seeing is around this concept of visibility, right? So if, as Karthik mentioned, no matter what channel you use to purchase something, I expect my orders to be able to be seen very easily within an organization. So if I call a call center and say, I haven't received my order yet, where is it? I'm going to get frustrated if they have to log into their order system and double check, yep, there's my order number, then take that order number over to the inventory system and then say, okay, yeah, it was packed. Okay, now let's go into the transportation system and see when it was shipped, right? Our expectations now in the world that we live in and is real-time data immediately. We have a very low tolerance for delay of anything, right? We're moving more and more towards instant gratification. That may be a social media thing that's moving into business as well, but our clients expect immediate visibility. So the ability to access that data when we've got a concept of at Avio of accessing the right data at the right time and getting it to the right people. MuleSoft really has helped us to do that by making sure that we can create these abstract layers of APIs that really help us do that. And then from an agility standpoint, I think over the past year, we've seen a number of companies that have fundamentally had to change how they do business, right? I'd never heard of touchless delivery until COVID came along, right? Or the need to have products delivered that I never thought I would have delivered. So those companies hadn't necessarily really accounted for that either. So the first mover advantage in that and being able to have systems in place that I could drive up somewhere and text them that I'm installed number 4, and then somebody would bring it out and put my package in my back seat. That wasn't something that existed before COVID. And so those who had the agility and the ability to rapidly execute on the need to do that, that's a challenge that IT is facing. And that's one of the areas that we have helped our clients solve by using this API-led approach and leveraging the Anypoint platform to really drive change faster. So a lot of what we're talking about here has to do with speed and ease of use. So let's walk through kind of a brief example of how APIs can address some of these challenges. So at a high level, right, we talked about those 3 big IT challenges, and oftentimes organizations get aligned into multiple different operating silos, whether that's engineering or sales or customer service, et cetera. a lot of those organizations or those business units have similar needs, but they're not necessarily efficiently coordinating between each other. So while somebody may need an order and the ability to access an order in Q1 of this year, there's not really typically not a good communication internally, so that in Q4, whenever engineering needs an order, that they can say, oh, we've already got that, right? Engineering typically goes to IT and says, hey, we need this order data, and then another integration, point-to-point integration is created. It would be much better to have a singular set of APIs where each of these groups could then look at a library, MuleSoft calls it Exchange, right? And see if an API is already available to help accelerate their time to delivery. Because if it's already out there, great, let's use it. So the reuse of APIs can really help to facilitate some of these concepts, like a single view of a customer across multiple divisions, because these assets already exist. So let's look at how an order API, for example, can be leveraged in this kind of concept. So if we look across this diagram here, an order is used across every single one of these different components of the supply chain, right? So we've identified a commonality. Ideally, we could build once and reuse it across all these teams, really, in order to facilitate these projects being done faster. So this API, this order API, could provide multiple resources with data for each of these different various business groups to use. And each one of these business groups may have data coming from different places, right? So each of these data points may be pulling from various systems, and that kind of further complicates the overall supply chain aspect of this, of all these different systems interacting together. So with an order being made up of information from maybe an IBM mainframe and Salesforce from the CRM standpoint, and their accounting data may be in Oracle financials, all these disparate systems need to provide some aspect of an order back to the consumer. So often what we've seen historically are point-to-point integrations. So you go from Salesforce into Oracle, or from your accounting system into your inventory system. That's really not a very effective way of doing things anymore. So utilizing an order API that's been well-defined and has good endpoints allows for a consistent return of the data. So this order API would enable the reuse, and it's very easy to discover, and it kind of fundamentally changes how teams approach integration. So what is an API, right? So an API really promotes reuse by having a defined context that people interact with it in. And it really abstracts out a lot of the complexity that has to happen from an integration standpoint. So every organization we work with has legacy systems. Those legacy systems oftentimes aren't going away anytime soon. They're the systems of record that contain very core critical data. So what we're seeing is, as organizations adopt some cloud-based platforms and try to combine them with their legacy core platforms, by being able to wrap those various systems with APIs really unlocks that system data, and it provides a functionality for the rest of the organization to use, so the rest of the organization can benefit from that data. Karthik talked about a high percentage of data isn't even used in the organization. And if we can unlock that data and allow it to be consumed by both internal and external consumers, the ability to make good business decisions and the ability to move faster is much higher because that data is available. One of the nice things here is that consumers of these APIs don't really even need to know what are the nuances of how that API is integrating with the backend system. They may not even know what those backend systems are. There can be documentation that's available to the API that can provide an overview of where that data came from, how it's organized, but it's not that you no longer need the specifics of how that integration is done, because that's now abstracted out from the end user. I mentioned earlier that we came from a process kind of background, so Avio has always had a process-oriented way of thinking, given that BPM heritage, and leveraging Mule to abstract out these complexities and capabilities via APIs has always really made sense to us. And so if we talk about kind of this three-tiered API-led architecture, The initial place that we typically see organizations start with MuleSoft is around the system API layer. And so for those of you who have kind of been around in IT for a while, there's a parallel here to what Gartner called the PACE layer methodology. And so system APIs tend to be fairly consistent, right? So you're not going to replace SAP very often. You're not going to replace an Oracle Financials or order management system very often. So these system APIs are kind of the core APIs that wrap your underlying legacy systems. That really is at the crux of it is unlocking that data for other people to use. So core IT can focus on the data governance, the security of accessing that data, and ensuring that golden record of data in these underlying systems is good, that only people who have the right to access it can access it, and in the way that the data governance allows for that to happen. So in this example right here, for example, blue yonder is the system of record for transportation operations, right? So it's going to have a specific system API that's geared towards providing access to that information. And then in the next layer that we call the process layer, think of this almost as an orchestration layer. These process APIs really tie together multiple system APIs in order to create something with a bit higher level of value. So you can incorporate some business logic, you can do some transformations, you can aggregate things, you can do queries based upon a previous call. And so these really become the building blocks within an organization for the high value APIs that can be reused across numbers of different business units and application development needs. So for example, in this one, right, we're looking at order tracking now encompasses orders, transportation, location, inventory, status. So through that order tracking API, we're now orchestrating calls to all those different aspects. And whenever I call the order tracking API, I don't necessarily need to know that it's hitting both, it's actually hitting SAP, this AS400, and the fulfillment system, right? All I know is I'm getting inventory data back, and that data is what's relevant to me. So finally, let's take a quick look at the next layer up, which is the experience layer. And these are typically fit for purpose APIs, right? So here we can see that Trading Partner 1 and Trading Partner 2 both want to leverage the order tracking process API, but they need to do it differently. So we can create a specific experience API for Trading Partner 1 and Trading Partner 2. But the speed with which we can create these experience APIs is very, very high, because really what we're doing is taking a subset of the data that's available from that order tracking and making it available in that experience API. So in pursuing kind of this multi-layered approach, you're able to abstract out the complexity of integration in each layer and really focus on delivering a solid either customer experience or the visibility or the real-time access to data, and create all of these reusable assets that can really accelerate future project delivery. So here the order tracking API can be exposed to partners, it can be exposed to the service team, it can be exposed to the sales application, but that API is going to be reused more and more. And then again, right, the core IT is going to focus on data governance and security. Line of business IT can focus on creating these process APIs that can be shared across those different lines of business, and individual project teams can then create experience APIs and use those Lego building blocks, if you will, that are the process APIs to really create that value. So let's tie this all together. I know we're kind of running short on time here, but I want to walk you through an example of one of our clients and how they've really addressed all of these trends that we're talking about. They wanted to improve their customer experience. They wanted better operational efficiency. They really need to improve kind of visibility as to where things are in their supply chain. And then they wanted to start incorporating some really bleeding edge technologies around smart systems as well. So this was a shingles distribution company that we worked with, that historically the way that you ordered was walk into one of their branch offices and fill out a piece of paper. They would then hand that over to the person behind the counter, and then they would have to go in and search the inventory, find it, put it in a cart. It was very manual, very prone to error. Obviously, it really only worked from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. whenever they closed the branch. And so they really wanted to create a way to interact with their customers in a much more modern way. So they decided to create this mobile experience, and really, right, so that everyone has an iPad now or an iPhone or an Android device. And so they wanted to create the ability to have real-time delivery tracking, online ordering, look at your previous invoices, all these sort of things that modern customers expect, right? We all expect the Amazon experience, whether that's B2B or B2C. They wanted to start providing some of these capabilities for their customers. So now their customers can look at the mobile app, know exactly where the truck is with their order on it. When is it going to get to their job site? They can make sure that their foreman's going to be there to accept delivery. The driver, just like with Amazon, they can take a picture of the shingles being placed at the job site, upload that to the order for proof of delivery, all the way through. If a shingle that they're trying to order is out of stock, they now have machine learning that basically recommends, well, here's an alternative shingle that's very close to that one based upon other purchase history that we've seen. And they've seen the ability to capture those orders versus that person going to somewhere else. Well, they may have these shingles at my other supplier. No, these are close enough. The system says these are good. We're going to go ahead and purchase this. So they've grown from, I think, 1 billion in sales to 3 billion in sales over the past couple of years. And the percentage of sales coming through their digital channel has grown to over 35% now, from zero just a few years ago. So they're really driving a ton through this system. And with all of this functionality being delivered via APIs, the ability to expand from just the initial mobile app to a web application, and then now to a kiosk was greatly accelerated, right? So it started out with just a mobile app. They then moved to a web-based app, so the people in the branches can now use the exact same application that their customers have, obviously with different permissions and some extra features, but they were able to reuse those exact same process and system APIs, create slightly different experience APIs that were specific for that web app. And now what they've done is they've created a kiosk type system that they can put in their branch. So if somebody is having trouble on their mobile phone, they can go into a branch. A person at that branch can actually go to the kiosk, help them out with the ordering. It's all language and context driven, so everything automatically translates to Spanish, for example. The chat bot that's incorporated in this via API knows whether or not you're doing English or Spanish. So it's been fascinating working with our client here and really evolving their way of working from the traditional paper order all the way now through using chat bots to place orders. And it's been 2 years. Again, they're continuing to evolve. They're not flying in the victory banner and saying we're done transforming. They're going to continue to evolve. They're continuing to roll out new capabilities and new features. And again, the speed to market with which they were able to do this was far and above anything that they've ever done before. I think we created the initial mobile set of APIs in about 8 weeks. They were able to roll out the web app in 2 weeks. And like 90% of that was on the web design, right? All the APIs were there for them to use. So it made it very quick and relatively easy for them to create those new ways of engaging with their customer. So as we wrap up, there are a few ideas we want to leave you with. One of those is really, where do we start, right? So how do we identify areas for opportunity? Well, one area to look at is what I just talked about, right? Digitization. Where can we apply some digital concepts to what we're doing today? Legacy systems with point-to-point integrations may also be a good place to start, because oftentimes those have some gaps in them in terms of the business process and where data has to move. So that may be an opportunity to improve. I would also encourage everyone to evaluate how customers, and whether those are internal customers, which are sometimes even more important than external customers, well, how are they interacting with the overall business process? And where are what we call the white spaces, right? Where are the gaps between those stages of the process where data can sometimes fall out or has to be entered in manually? Those are oftentimes very good opportunities for leveraging an API or identifying a place where APIs could be useful, and then having that API be leveraged somewhere else. One of the other things that we would recommend people look at is focusing on just reducing time to market, right? So this gets to that whole concept of reuse, and sentiment can shift quickly, and organizations that are able to kind of adapt and pivot with the market are going to be much more successful in the long run. And using these composable building blocks, these API building blocks to get the right data to the right people at the right time, the faster you can do that, the better. From a strategic approach standpoint, we have a concept here at Avio where we think big, but we start small and act fast, right? So we don't want to really come up with a 5-year plan for changing something. We like to have a large strategic initiative that we have an idea of what we want to do, but then we like to start small and really do things quickly and build confidence, build really trust within the organization of how things are going to do or how things are going to operate. Not only does that help build skill set with the tool itself, but it also builds trust and also helps from a change management standpoint with smaller incremental changes versus a large big bang approach. When I implemented MuleSoft back in the 90s, it was a rip and replace, right? And people really struggled with coming up with adhering to these new processes. Well, this start small, act fast process really helps to build that trust around it. One of the other things we'd encourage you to think about is focusing on benefits and building on incremental value. In the SO realm, right, we thought if you build it, they will come. Didn't really happen. So focus on how APIs can provide an immediate benefit. Look for those pain points and address those, and then build incremental value around those. Make this a very iterative approach. Don't try to get it right and perfect the first time. Oftentimes we don't know how people are going to use something that is built. We think we have it designed and created one way, and then we see how people use it and go, oh, I never thought about that. So add incremental value. I talked already about kind of building consensus across both business and IT. And that comes naturally with this incremental approach, right? So you have a big picture that you're trying to solve, build a small path towards that, but run along that path, if you will. So I think with that, we'll open it up for Q&A.